Andrew Abbott got away with it again. Let's discuss on Fantasy Baseball today in 5. Welcome into FBT in 5 on Tuesday, July 9th. I am Frank Stampfl, joined by Scott White, and Andrew Abbott just had maybe his best start of the season. Up against the Rockies in Cincinnati, he threw 7 shutout innings, 3 hits, 2 walks, 8 strikeouts, 19 whiffs on 106 pitches. Great matchup here, Scott, but Andrew Abbott dominated. What did you see from him in this start?
Yeah, so I'm not sure we could call this start getting away with it, quote unquote, because it was just a dominant start by every measure. As you point out, his best start of the season. The 19 swinging strikes were a season high. In fact, it was just his 4th start this year with double-digit swinging strikes. So he clearly had something going right, and that something may have been the sweeper, which he threw more than usual, 24% versus 16. And it was up 1.6 miles per hour. It got 7 of his 19 whiffs. It was a pitch that seemed to be more effective for him on this day, and he leaned into it more and got the strikeouts that he had been lacking all year. Having said that, he was facing a Rockies lineup that's bad to begin with, but especially away from Coors Field, and especially when it's directly after a stint at Coors Field. You get that post-Coors hangover effect where they have to adjust to regular elevation and the way the ball moves in regular elevation again, and it just takes the lineup a while to catch up. So Abbott, the matchup was so good that it's hard to know if the effect of the sweeper was really that big, or if it was just Abbott mowing down a lineup that stood no chance against him. Overall, I mean, the FIP, the XFIP, they're still approaching 5. Overall, Abbott still has a high walk rate, a low strikeout rate, a high home run rate. There's still a lot of reason to be skeptical of him, but this was a start that, if every start was like this, then Abbott would just be good. So we'll see what happens next time out.
Let's stick with the pitchers and talk about Gavin Williams in his second start. He looked much better at the Tigers. He threw 5 1/3 shutout innings, 4 hits, 1 walk, 5 strikeouts, had 11 whiffs on 89 pitches. That curveball was awesome in this one. The fastball velocity remains up. This was a very encouraging second start here, Scott, for Gavin Williams.
Yeah, and I think what was most encouraging about it, apart from just the results, is that he seemed to mix in those breaking balls that were so effective for him last year. Kind of got away from that in his first start and really leaned on this new cutter of his. And obviously it didn't work out so well, even against the White Sox. But the curveball and slider were both very effective pitches for him last year. It's a little unclear from the data how much he actually threw the slider, because it has him throwing a lot of cutters again, but the characteristics on that cutter were so different from the first start that I think there's probably a classification error going on there, and it was some sliders mixed in for Gavin Williams. But definitely the curveball usage was up, the results were better, and overall I think it was an encouraging step forward for Gavin Williams.
Yes, and Gavin Williams is up to 79% rostered, so likely not available, but just go out there and check. If you play in a 10-team league or a 12-team points league, a shallower format, Gavin Williams might be out there, and he shouldn't be. Add him if he is available. Speaking of adding pitchers, D-backs pitching prospect Yilber Diaz looked good in his debut up against the Atlanta Braves. 6 innings, 1 run, 5 strikeouts, mostly a 3-pitch mix, averaged 96 miles per hour on the fastball. Scott, what did you see from Yilber Diaz? Is he worth adding in deeper leagues after this outing?
Yeah, I thought he looked good. The fastball earned high marks in the minors. It peaked at 98 in this start. He got 6 of his 9 whiffs just on the fastball. So, it was an effective pitch for him. He didn't mix in a cutter at all, and that's a pitch he was throwing 33% of the time at AAA. So he may have just simplified for his first start, which we often see young pitchers do. But most of all, I was encouraged that he issued just one walk and threw 64% of his pitches for strikes, which is a decent rate. The walk rate was a problem for Yilber Diaz in the minors, actually my biggest concern for him. He also had an ERA over 4 in the minors, but AA, AAA, very hitter-friendly in the Diamondback system. And more than anything, the strikeouts were the big takeaway, the reason in the minors that I thought Yilber Diaz was a breakthrough performer this year. Maybe he'll get sent back down with the All-Star break coming up, but I imagine Yilber Diaz earned the right to be the Diamondbacks' 5th starter going into the second half. Wouldn't call him somebody you need to add yet, but I'm definitely interested in the potential.
All right, for more extensive fantasy baseball coverage, listen to the Fantasy Baseball Today podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, the Odyssey app, or anywhere else podcasts are found. Thanks for listening to Fantasy Baseball Today in 5, and we will be back again tomorrow. Bye-bye.